All right, so we're going to be working with charcoal and drawing the still life. So you already had some practice drawing the forms, and now we're actually drawing from these objects. So for starters, assuming that you want to work in charcoal, you're going to use this charcoal paper, which is slightly textured and it will hold some of the charcoal, whereas a drawing paper is going to be smoother. So this has a little bit of a tooth to it. You're going to find it's helpful in just keeping your table from getting super messy to put a border, a tape border around it. So when you do that, you're going to use masking tape. And unless your tape is like proper painter's tape, oftentimes it ends up being a little too sticky. So what I would recommend is pulling your tape and then actually pressing it down onto your table so we get some of the stickiness off. So this will ultimately peel off of your paper. So I'm going to peel it back off. And then you want to very carefully line the edge of the tape up with the edge of the paper, attempting not to have excess tape on this edge. When they're all on the drying rack, they all end up sticking together if you have the excess tape. You're going to have a little excess at the ends, and you'll actually just trim that off rather than fold it over. If you fold it over, it is more likely to rip your paper at the end. So I've already done 2 sides, or now 3 sides, so I'll just do the last one. You'll want to put that all around your paper. Once again, pressing it down. Pull that up. And carefully lining that up. Attempting not to have it wrinkle. It's going to be super annoying if your paper is wrinkled, so try to get that flat. If you didn't, you can pull it off and try again. All right, so once again, trimming off these little corners. All right, so the next thing to do if you are working with charcoal is you're gonna take, this is what we're gonna be using, the only kind of charcoal you'll need for today. This is a vine charcoal, and it is not super dark compared to the compressed charcoal, which you might end up using in your shading, which looks more like this. So today we just need vine charcoal. It can break, which is fine. Sometimes you want a smaller piece, just break it, it's fine. And what you're going to do is you're going to cover the whole surface with a layer of this. It does not have to be perfect. This is going to be kind of our ground, and when you're shading, some parts you're going to leave this value. This can get worn out pretty quickly. I'm switching already. Some parts you'll leave this value, some parts you'll make darker, and some parts you'll erase to get your lights. And you're going to want a tissue, which I had, but no longer have. Let's see. Okay. And you just take your tissue, and you can see how easily that just blends in. Don't worry about perfection. I'll say that again. Some people want to go over this again and again, have it be perfectly smooth. It really doesn't matter. You're going to be drawing over most of this. Okay. So there you go. Okay, so that's our ground. You're also going to want to draw crosshairs on it. These are going to help you with placing your composition. So I'm going to take my ruler and measure my paper. So I'll measure it from the end. So that's 15.5. So what is that? It's actually, we're going to say 16. So 8 inches and 8 inches. Connect those connect those 2 dots. And then going this way, we have 12 inches, so 6 and 6. Connect those. And because, once again, I'm working with this vine charcoal, which is, it's super soft and pretty light. When I ultimately want to erase these lines, I can actually just take a tissue and I can just wipe those off, and those will come off super easily. And don't worry if you'll go through some of this. some of this charcoal. All right. So the next thing that you are going to do is we're going to start looking at the actual still life. And you'll notice you'll have a viewfinder that is similarly shaped to your piece of paper. And yours will be in proportion. Mine's not exactly in proportion, but your viewfinders should be in proportion to your piece of paper that you get. And this is going to act kind of like a low-tech camera. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold this out in front of you and close one eye. And it might be tricky to see through the camera. You're not seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm looking for the composition that I like. So I can experiment with holding this sideways, holding it up. If I hold it out, it's going to zoom in. If I bring it in here, I'm going to see more of the scene. But once I find what I like, I'm going to take a dry erase marker, and the goal, this is a little tricky, I'm attempting to hold my hands steady, keep my head steady, and actually literally trace what I see in here. So I like my composition, so I'm going to trace. I do not have to get detailed, and it's totally going to be wobbly, that's okay. But I'm just trying to find out where are my objects. So in this scene, oops, my cone is here, my bowl is here, my chess piece is here. Okay, so I end up with this like really wonky looking thing. Not realistic, that's fine, but it shows me where things are in my composition. So I'm going to take that information. I'm not attempting to draw from this very poor tracing, but I am going to see where things are. So I notice that the cone is, I would say, about, like 3/4 of the way up this box. So my cone, the top of my cone is going to be about here. I notice that this picture is about the top of it, lines up about with this line, the bottom of it lines up about here. So I'm kind of marking where things are. The bowl is lining up, let's see, the edges of my picture are going to be here. So I've got kind of like a simple box there. And then this bowl is going to be about here. Goes to about here, and then my chess piece, I can just draw really lightly knowing I can erase all this. My chess piece is right about here, and the bottom of it is just a little bit above where the bottom of this picture is. Okay, so my chess piece is going to go from like here to here. Okay, so I have like these little markings, and I know what they mean. I know what's where. From there, this is where you can actually start to draw, because you know where, how big things are going to be. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, because people often have a little bit of trouble with drawing the chess pieces, so I'm going to go over kind of drawing that more specifically. So what I would want to do to start with that, I already have the size mapped out, so that's a good start. I want to know the proportions of it. And I also notice right away that it's symmetrical. So since I know that it's symmetrical, I'm just going to draw a line, which I already have one here, that goes right down the center. If the chess piece were slanted, I would check the angle of that slant, and then I would draw that line of symmetry in a slant. The next thing I want to know is the different parts of it. Like, how does the top circle on the chess piece relate to the size of the rest of the chess piece? So I'm going to show you a technique called sighting. So what you're going to do is close one eye. You're going to hold your pencil out in front of you. Ideally, your arm should be straight. If it's bent, there's going to be more room for error. So my arm is out in front of me. What I'm doing is I'm lining the pencil point up with the top of the chess piece, and I'm lining my thumbnail up with the bottom of that circle, because I want to see how big that circle is compared to the rest of the chess piece, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that measurement, keeping one eye closed, and I'm going to move it down. I'm going to see how many times does that ball measurement fit inside this chess piece. So starting here, so I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm getting about 3.5, almost 4, okay? So then if I were to divide this up, I'm going to divide this into thirds, and this one is a little bit smaller at the bottom. Okay, so that's kind of how that's going to be mapped out. I'm also going to check, using the angle sighting technique, which you learned last time, what's the relationship of the top ball to the bottom base. Okay, so these are all going to be guidelines that help us draw this thing so it's not super wonky. Okay, so I'm checking the angle from the top, the ball to the base, and it's something like that. Okay, so I'm going to translate that down, and it should be the same on the other side, something like that. Okay, so now I know my chess piece is going to fit in that space. So then I can go ahead and start drawing it. So I know the top, we're going to have the ball. Another thing to notice, and this is complicated, is that when we're drawing a round object, so you notice the bottom of this chess piece, it's a round object, so it's not going to be a straight line. Generally, unless it's exactly at eye level, it's going to either curve like a smile or like a frown. So you want to kind of notice which way is it curving. And from my point of view, it looks like a smile, this bottom of the chess piece. Okay. And then there's another one coming right here. And then I notice a curve here. And I'm keeping in mind, like, so I have this line of symmetry so that that can help me to keep things the same on both sides. I'm noticing this, also a smile curve here. Got a little piece here I missed. So if you mess up, you can see just with the finger, you can easily erase. And then we've got this coming in. This coming in. So you can see with those guides, I can draw something that is pretty symmetrical. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We've already kind of showed you how to draw some of the other forms. When you do get to, I'll show you one more piece. When you're drawing, like, let's say I want to draw the piece of paper that it's sitting on, remember that angle sighting. So I can actually check if I want to see how do I draw the right side of the paper. I can take my hand with the pencil, line it up with that right edge of the paper, and notice that it comes in at an angle like this. Okay, it actually would go off the paper, but that's how I would do it. And I can also I can check the angle of the paper on the other side as well. So you would just continue with this, taking your time, drawing each piece, including your line of symmetry where necessary, and you want to get everything drawn accurately before beginning to shade. Okay, that's all.